All right, we will start. We will call the Boise Districting Commission for November 2nd, 2022 to order. Attendance?
Love,
Here?
Perry,
Here.
Peter, Spiker,
Here.
Valderrama,
She was online.
Valderrama,
I am here, sorry. Technical difficulties.
Thank you. All right, so let's get down to our new business. First is minutes. Is there a motion to approve the October 26th, 2022 meeting minutes?
Chair Love, I'd like to make a motion to approve the October 26th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 I
Any opposed? No. And then any discussion pieces before we get started? All right. So we will now open the motion passes first of all, but we will now open the public hearing. Names will be ordered or called in the order listed on the sign-in sheets. We will begin with those who registered to testify via Zoom and then move to those who are here in person. Each participant will be given 3 minutes, just like our last public testimony. Representatives of an established neighborhood association and are the sole representative for that association will be given 10 minutes. When called to testify, please state your name and address for the record. If you are testifying on behalf of the neighborhood association, please state the name of that association. So let's move to the Zoom, the people who are testifying on Zoom. First and foremost is Cindy Thorngren. Oh, you are here in person. Great. Do you mind if we do everyone else first, I guess? Yeah. Okay, sorry. Great. Tracy Olson.
Mute. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm Tracy Olson. I'm at 1562 East Sendero Lane, Boise 83712. And just briefly, I testified the last meeting in support of map 8. I see that you accepted map 11. And I just want to thank you for your hard work on that. I am here to support your choice of map 11 with the changes made. I don't really have anything else to say. I just wanted to voice my support for the choices that you made.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Next will be Giles Arouette. Not on. Okay. Steve Kramer. And he's not on. Okay. April Frederick.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, great. Hi, good evening, Boise Districting Committee. I'm April Frederick. I live at 1416 North 8th Street in Boise, 83702. And I support draft map number 11. I want to thank the committee members for their hard work and consideration when picking this map. I also want to thank you for working with the publicly submitted map number 8 and improving it by removing all the precinct splits. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Estee LaFrenz.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Estee LaFrenz. I am the president of South Cole Neighborhood Association, and I am speaking on behalf of the Neighborhood Association tonight. So I understand that map 11 has been modified from map 8. We are not in support of either map 8 or map 11, and we are very concerned about the misrepresentation of West Boise. And from the map to us, it looks like the western side of Boise is completely split off. And so there's a long skinny piece on the very western side that runs from northwest Boise to southwest Boise. And I feel like that's going to not be the best representation for West Boise and for our neighborhood association. And we have submitted and asked for some other maps to be looked at and discussed that are more representative of maybe a neighborhood association type or more of a community-based map that would better characterize West Boise into a community that's more united. And so we just feel that map 11 is going to sort of divide our community in half. And some of us will be having representation from other parts of the city, and it won't be in the best interest of Southwest Boise, certainly of the South Cole Neighborhood Association, and likely not for SWACA either. So we're not in support of map 11. Thank you.
Question?
Yeah, Esty, hi, Commissioner Perry. I don't know if you can see me because I can't actually see what you're saying. So thank you so much for testifying and giving your thoughts on the map. Just because you had noted that you were from a neighborhood association, I have a question. You had mentioned that you had submitted other maps. So I just want to clarify, were one of the 16 maps that the commission considered a map submitted by the South Cole Neighborhood Association?
It wasn't officially submitted by the South Cole Neighborhood Association. We have been working with other people in our community, and I understand that there was a more representative map that was based on the neighborhoods. And I believe one of those people is going to speak tonight at the meeting as well. So I hope that they'll be able to show that map, and that's the community-based map that we're in support of.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Next would be Tony Torres.
Hi, can you all hear me? Hi, my name's Tony Torres. I'm at 2413 West Pendleton Street, Boise, 83705. And I just wanted to testify in support of draft map number 11. I appreciate the commission taking, voting to support map number 8, which had been submitted by the public. But I think map number 11 is even better because it makes the district drawing a little bit more fair. I realize that not every single map that's submitted is somebody's going to be unhappy with, but I think you did a really good job with map number 11 of taking what was good about map number 8 and making it even better. And I appreciate the commission's work on this, and I hope we can get this one passed. Thank you.
Tony.
Mhm.
Any questions? No. Next is Benjamin Chaffetz.
Hello. Yes, I don't represent any particular homeowners association, just Southwest Boise. I
Can you
think
speak up just a little bit and state your address as well?
my address. Well, I live here. Hang on. Is that better? Can you hear me?
Just a tiny bit.
How about now?
Yes,
I have to be careful because I have a screaming baby downstairs. So
I understand.
Anyway, I live in Southwest Boise, in Mill Creek subdivision. I don't represent a particular HOA. I'm just a concerned citizen. I am not in favor of the proposed map.
Do you have an
and I'm-
address by chance? We do
I
need that
do.
for the record.
Okay, I'm not, I guess, okay. It's 1816 South Rustic Mill Place, Boise, Idaho, 83709.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not in support of the current map, and I'd like to listen a little bit more before I say more, if that's all right.
We can come. No, it's you have your 3 minutes and we can't really circle back.
Okay, well then I'm not in support, and that's all I have to say at this juncture.
Okay, thank you. Next is Justin Shank.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, you caught me right in the middle of a bites of dinner, but my name is Justin Shank. I live in the West Bench at 7772 West Bay Hill Street, 83704. And I really am in support of map 11. I thought map 8 made the most sense, just from what is the easiest way we can get this done to make the most common sense lines across the city. And I thought it improved a little bit with map 11. So I'm just, I would like to support that.
Thank you. Next, we have Patty Bowen.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Patty Bowen. I live at 912 West Fort Street, Boise, Idaho, 83702. I'm not representing anybody. I'm just a lifelong Idahoan and a Boise State graduate. I've been in Idaho/Boise most of my life. And I just wanted to thank y'all so much for the work that you've done picking this map. I really liked map 8, and I think the improvements you made for map 11 are great. So I'm in support of map 11 and just appreciate y'all's work.
Thank you. Next, we will move into the in-person portion of testimony. So first and foremost is David King.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. I'm David King. I live at 10064 Smoke Ranch Drive, Boise, Idaho, 83709. I'm also president of Boise Parks Association and Friends of McGurdio Park. And in my capacities as the president of the Boise Parks Association of Friends of McGurdio Park, I have worked closely with neighborhood associations in our area, the South Cole Neighborhood Association and the Southwest Ada County Alliance. And I worked as a deputy city attorney for years. I did land use law, and I'm familiar with how this all works, and I'm familiar with the city of Boise's land use procedures. And the neighborhoods are enshrined into the planning and development process because these are communities. We never go through the planning process and talk about precincts. So now we're going to have the planning process and be in discordant with the way we've got council districts because we've arbitrarily gone this process of picking precincts. So you could have a major project and have multiple council members have their district be impacted by a major project, and they could have inconsistent positions on it. Neighborhood associations usually know who their council member is and have them on speed dial. Now they're going to have in West Boise, they're going to have multiple council members they're going to have to reach out to. So the neighborhood associations that I've been dealing with, SWACA is divided into 2 districts now. South Cole Neighborhood Association is divided into 3 districts. I've heard people say that they like map 11. What I haven't heard is anyone saying speaking in defense of how map 11 divides all the neighborhoods of West Boise. And that's the problem. That's what we're trying to address here. So it's isolated. We agree with what you've done in the east side of Boise, the north side of the map. It's fine. You've kept the communities intact. You've kept the neighborhoods intact. But neighborhood associations are enshrined into the way the city does its planning processes. And there's another organization, it's called Boise Working Together. And Boise Working Together is a group of individuals who represent each one of the neighborhood associations. The people who think in terms of precincts are people who work in politics. They're not the people who work in planning and development, and nary the two shall meet. So I get it that you've chosen a method for keeping precincts together, and it's some way of getting the population adjustment, but neighborhoods are communities. Thank you. And if you look at District 1, that is not a community.
Question for you before you leave. Based on the instructions we were given in the law that we have to follow, what you would rather have us build our districts based off of neighborhood associations over the precincts, even though precincts are specifically written in the law that we are supposed to follow?
We should develop council districts based on communities. Okay, and the West Boise United map that was submitted adopts it. It's a minor adjustment from what you've got, and it's an adjustment to the districts in West Boise to keep the neighborhoods together. And because these are the communities of West Boise.
What map was this?
This was submitted, and it was submitted later. I think it's been identified as the West Boise United map. It was submitted by Michael last night or yesterday.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And sorry, Mr.
problem.
King, if you
Yep.
can't answer this question off the top of your
Sure.
head, and if you cannot, it's totally okay. But kind of similarly along the lines of Madam Chair over here, is that both the city council ordinance and the statute require that we keep a precinct that doesn't divide census blocks, it keeps precincts whole. But I hear you because it also outlines neighborhood associations. And I can tell you with great vigor that we tried to keep them all intact, and there's no magic wand, unfortunately, to follow all of the rules. So I just wanted to make that clear. My question to you is, do you know offhand, because I think we saw the map, but it wasn't provided to us in a way that we could see maybe how many precincts were split or how many census blocks were divided and what the population deviation was. Do you happen to know on your map any of that information?
We can get the paper copies up to the board up here for you to consider. And this commission did a great job keeping neighborhoods together on one side of the town, and it did not do a good job of keeping neighborhoods together on the other side of the town. And the look of that District 1 makes it crystal clear why it was so impossible to do after you gerrymandered everybody into District 1.
Follow up with that. Why do you say that the other districts weren't broken up at all? I mean, we divide the Southwest or Southeast Boise Neighborhood Association along Boise Avenue. We split up the North End Association. We split up Barber Valley.
There's minimal. If you look on the map I'm looking at here that has your map 11 with district lines superimposed or neighborhood lines superimposed, it's minimal on one side of the map. Does somebody have a paper copy? And I apologize if not.
It's okay.
If you look, it's on this side, the neighborhoods are get together. Over here, they're sliced and diced. It's a great disparity between here and there.
Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
I'm not sure what the protocol was, Madam Chairman. But I just, as you know, that was my opinion as well. And I just want to thank that last speaker because I concur with him that we could have made a greater effort to keep the neighborhood associations in West Boise more whole. Since I live in a neighborhood association, which is the newest, that was only created in 2020, I was not totally experienced in what value they bring to the city. And I think that last gentleman really kind of opened my eyes on the importance when it comes to development and growth and permitting and ordinances and zoning and all those areas where a neighborhood really has to speak up together. So yes, I want to thank him for speaking, and I wish that he had been here sooner, but I agree with him.
Even the office of the mayor reaches out to the neighborhood associations before they get started on development projects. They're going to have quite a few to call every time there's one going on in West Boise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Christy Warhurst. Oh, yes. Sorry. I was just admiring it. There you go.
Okay. I'm Christy Warhurst, and my address is 3718 North Pepperwood Drive, 83704. I'm against the current map. Mine is marked the map 11. A bit of background. I was born and raised in Boise. I have lived here since 1980 and have lived in the North End, Central Bench, Southeast Boise, and now I live in the West Bench. My husband and I, along with almost my entire family dating back to 1932, are Boise Braves alumni. My son, however, since living in the West Boise, attended both West Ada schools and Boise schools. He is recently a graduate from Capitol High. In a nutshell, I feel I'm well qualified to represent my neighborhood and any neighborhood in this valley. Every neighborhood of Boise has a different look and feel about it. It's almost like going into different worlds. I remember when I was a kid, I had a friend from Central Bench and took her to Hyde Park in the North End. She thought we were in a different town. She had never been over there before. I know whatever map you choose, you cannot make everyone happy. I do think that map 11 is a good starting place. I do like that the districts are mostly equal in size, but some districts don't make sense to me. The first thing I noticed was that the North End, East Boise, and the Central Bench appeared to be kept pretty much the same. I'm scratching my head as to why West Boise, specifically District 1, 2, and 6, are the only ones that are drastically changing. Why are you dividing up West Boise neighborhoods so much? Just across the street of Maple Grove from where I live, there is a totally different vibe. I, for a fact, do not believe someone who lives east of Maple Grove could represent my interests very well for my neighborhood or vice versa. This actually stresses me out. Isn't that the whole reason my districts were created for Boise, so that it would give each neighborhood the best possibility of accurate representation? Even when I was a kid, there was this dismissive feel towards West Boise. Me, originally growing up in North, South, and East ends of town, I got to tell you, there was no heart connection to West End. I'm not sure if it's because it's assumed it's Meridian, but now since I live in the West End for almost 20 years, it feels as though we're the outcasts from Greater Boise. West Boise has to be the one who adjusts, gets scraps, or ignored. I know mental health is a buzzword at this time, but I also know that folks who feel like outcasts need attention and support. See us here with your heart. With map 11, my neighborhood will be cut in half. My own home church will be in a different district. I encourage you to keep neighborhoods united and adopt the Western Boise United and Commission map instead. It's this one. If you guys want this one, you want it? Okay, I'll give it to you after this. Thank you for what you've done this far. I am basically seeking equal respect towards the West End regarding neighborhood unity that you currently give to the North, South, and East End. No favoritism, equality throughout. I urge you to consider the alternative map and unite West Boise. Thanks.
That one we have plenty of. Thank you. Yeah, it's here. As well. Yeah, it is. Thank you. I actually have one question for you really quick. Why, and this is just for my own interest, what is the big difference between someone who lives east of Maple Grove and west of Maple Grove as far as representation for you?
Well, first of all, like I said, My son went to West Ada School District, but we were in Boise at the time. Okay, it's a long story, but I ended up moving and I wanted to keep my son in Boise because we switched from West to Boise and it was just across the street and the neighborhoods completely look different. The personalities are completely different. I think there's a lot of homeowners in my neighborhood now than the one when I lived over just the block right by Fairmont Junior High. My son should have gone to Centennial, but he went to Capitol. There's a whole different demographic between the two. Different types of children go there. It's just completely different with like socially.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Next is Bailey Bingham.
Hi, committee. Can you hear me? Hi, my name is Bailey Bingham. I'm at 2000 North Mountain Cove Road. I testified a couple of weeks ago with y'all, and I just want to thank you. You did a great job. We had a really great discussion. We did comparative analysis between many different maps. We got to hear different perspectives from lots of different people. We even addressed the topic of Maple Grove is a dividing line, 5 miles a dividing line. So I think that you all have done a great job looking over the facts, hearing people out, considering different views. And, you know, I'm grateful that y'all have put forth the diligence to allow this process to take place over many weeks. I'm grateful that, you know, any person in the public could have gone along in the last couple of months and presented their plan. I'm grateful for the people that came in and did it on time. So thanks again.
Thank you. Barrett, is it Tetlow?
Barrett Tetlow. Barrett Tetlow, and I'm Barrett Tetlow. I live at 1331 South Watermark Eagle. And I've recently moved to Eagle about 3 months ago in June and bought a house there. But before that, I lived at Fairview and Cloverdale, right across from the cemetery. So that is sort of, I've got more friends in that part of town than I have in my new area. And so I want to thank you for all your hard work. I come to you with a support if amend position. Talking about redistricting and the principles, as you know, you have a contradiction. You're supposed to follow population deviation, Voting Rights Act, natural boundaries, communities of interest, and they're all in conflict, right? You pick communities of, if you pick community of interest, then the population's deviation is completely off. You can never have a perfect map. I don't envy your task going forward. But what you can do is have a little bit of a better map. Communities of interest is an important legal principle of redistricting. You can talk to your city attorneys about that. That is what you're supposed to do. Neighborhoods are how people identify. How do people talk? I live in the North End. I'm in Hillcrest. I'm in the Bench area. That's how they identify where they are. It's more than just a neighborhood association. It's an identity. It's a sense of belonging. It's a sense of community. It's a communities of interest. The neighborhood associations mostly model how people think of themselves and how they identify. You've done a good job in other parts of the area. I think there's a lot of parts in the map 11 that make a lot of sense. The population deviation is fantastic. I think you're like plus or minus less than 3% or something like that. I did an excellent job. One person, one vote, very important principle. You've done a great job in that area, but in the western part of the city, you've divided too many spots. Almost every exception of Centennial, every single neighborhood in the western part of the city is divided. You can do a little better job. You can still use precincts, but also using neighborhoods. Maybe there'll be less neighborhood splits. I think in map 11, there's 11 neighborhood splits. Make it 8. Can you make it 8? Can you make it 7? Can you make it less going forward? You did a good job in a lot of areas. There's just a little bit of room of improvement in the West Boise area going forward. And I think you can do that. I urge you to look at it with neighborhoods and communities of interest as an important principle, as well as all the other important legal principles. And I think you can accomplish a better map. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? Next, we have Mary Callister.
Hi, I'm Mary Collister. I'm a Boise native. My address is 5670 Kirkcliff Court, Boise, Idaho 83704. I've seen a lot of growth in Boise since I was born in 1960. Some good, some outrageous. I've worked at the Capitol building. I've worked at the Legislative Information Desk for 2 years. I've worked for the US Census. I come from a very strong political family. As a single mother, I help my 2 boys, ages 10 and 12, do their paper routes. And so I look at this map that we're looking at and think, even a 12-year-old boy could do a better job of a map. So I'm asking you, as a native Boisean, I agree with Christy and with Barrett. Our churches and schools have been reorganized and organized and taken apart, divided, added to, all the way out in West Boise, all the way from Cole Road to Meridian. Over the years, we've been jumbled about, moved about. We might live a half a mile from a junior high and we're shipped all the way out to Lake Hazel, 7 miles out. So we've been tossed and turned. We love our neighborhoods. I don't belong to any neighborhood association. I'm standing here for myself. And we ask that you take a good look at our map that we're submitting, Western Boise United and Commission Map 11, and take a good look at that and see if you can help us out. Thank you for all your time and your effort and your volunteers.
Thank you. Questions? Next is Rob Stark.
Rob Stark, Vice President, Barber Valley Neighborhood Association, 6865 East Warm Springs. The Barber Valley Neighborhood Association is strongly opposed to the draft map as it separates the Barber Valley from much of Southeast Boise, especially Columbia Village, Surprise Valley, and the Columbia Road neighborhoods. The $15 billion Micron investment will disproportionately affect the Barber Valley, Surprise Valley, Columbia Village, and Columbia Road, with the growth impacting housing, traffic, and services. It is vital for these neighborhoods of shared interest to have council representation that can help navigate and manage the future expansion and growth. Furthermore, the Barber Valley has more in common with Southeast Boise than with the East and North End neighborhoods. Students from the Barber Valley attend Timberline High School and participate in extracurricular activities alongside kids from Southeast. In their daily lives, Barber Valley residents frequent businesses and services in Southeast Boise. Additionally, the Barber Valley, Surprise Valley, and Columbia Village residents all share a mutual interest in the natural areas that are not only adjacent to our neighborhoods, but are central to our identity. These include protecting the Barber Pool Conservation Area that encompasses both sides of the Boise River, and recreating on the trails in the Boise River Wildlife Management Area in the foothills above the Barber Valley. Our neighborhoods have a vital interest in protecting and enjoying these resources. Finally, the Barber Valley is also in the same Parks Planning District with Southeast Boise, so it would track that these neighborhoods are represented by the same elected council member. The Barber Valley Neighborhood Association strongly urges you to amend the draft map and create a council district that keeps the Barber Valley intact with Southeast Boise the way that the current districts do. Both the neighborhood and council member representing this district will benefit from keeping these neighborhoods in the same council district. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I have a question. Mr. Stark, thank you so much for being here and thank you for providing written comments as well. We did read them. One question I had for you, I know from the beginning of this commission, one of our biggest key interests was ensuring that the neighborhood associations had as much, if not more, emphasized information as the rest of Boise. So did the Barber Valley Neighborhood Association either provide a copy of a map that they would have preferred other than the one that you like your current district zone? Did you try to attempt to use our software to do it or provide any public input on any of the 16 prior maps?
We were happy with the way things are. We've had quite a bit on our plate and we're volunteers. We've got several different fires we're working on. So when we watched the last meeting and looked at the maps, like we actually prefer 5 and 3 to, out of the maps that were presented, not as much as the way things are currently. But I mean, we'd even be happy with just absorbing the Timberline High School boundaries. some of it, there's the shared identity, and then there's also having a voice. Before I moved to Barber Valley 4 years ago, I lived at the far west end of Boise. We built a house in the 90s at Eagle and Chinden before everything blew up. And I understand because it felt like City Hall thought that we were Meridian. A lot of times with the Barber Valley, it feels like City Hall thinks we're Mountain Home. And we want to have a voice, and we also are afraid, in addition to these things, that we tie in more to Southeast than the East End and the North End. But just like now, where it feels like there's a big voice to the North End and the East End, if that's where our representation is coming from, it's going to be a fight. We're not going to have a voice, where we don't have that much in common with those neighborhoods like we do with Southeast Boise.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. We will move on to Wayne Ritchie.
Hello, I'm Wayne Ritchie. I live at 4137 Mountain View in Boise. Do all of you remember our last districting map? They hired some attorneys, paid a lot of money for it. The last time I was in this room, I came in and I accused the city council and the mayor of creating the most gerrymandered set of districts anyone has ever seen. And I see that on these maps also. Okay. I want you all to know that we all notice that almost every single map, there's a division line right down 15th Street. What is it, 3 and 4? Right in that area it's like that's where we started. Let's start at 15th Street. We have to put a borderline there. Then we'll draw the districts from there. Does everybody know why we started at 15th Street? Anybody? Does anybody know why we started at 15th Street? Because 5 of the city council members and the mayor all live within about a half mile of 15th Street. So we have to draw the line there first so that the current city council members can run for re-election next year. So let's start there. Then we'll draw all the other districts later. Okay, that's what gerrymandering is. You look at every one of these maps and they all run right down the middle of 15th Street first. Okay, now I noticed everybody here is upset about their little corner of the world, but don't think we didn't notice that's where it started.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did you look at the last map that I submitted last week?
I have not. I personally like 11, 8, and 13. You know.
Well, I'm just wondering because specifically the map that I submitted didn't run down 15th Street, or at least the amended map that I submitted. It actually encompassed the entirety of the north end to 6th Street. So I don't necessarily.
Most of the maps run right down the middle.
I was going to
15th
say,
Street.
so I think questioning the impartiality of the board here is kind of unfair because we all did do our best and we all did put forth different maps.
Think of this. Think of it like this. Probably what? 8 out of all the maps, 10 of all the maps run down the middle of 15th Street. Okay, look at them. It's on there. What would everybody say is the strongest neighborhood district in Boise? The North End. The North End Neighborhood Association is very strong. It's been there for a long time. They all vote. They are their own little community. If you ask anybody in here what the strongest, most prevalent neighborhood association in this city is, they're going to say the North End. But we split that neighborhood in half.
And I've commented on that multiple times,
Okay.
right? Like I commented last week, I've commented this week to that fact. And that I personally didn't appreciate that fact. So I just think it's disingenuous to say that we're not being, or that we're gerrymandering when it's been brought up. We've discussed it some of us have submitted maps that didn't do that. So I just don't appreciate that comment. And that's all. Thank you.
I've called the mayor and the city council out on it
Thank you.
also. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a question. Mr. Ritchie, would you stand for one more question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for being here today. I just have one question. If using your argument about where the concentration of city council members are, would you agree that then come the next election cycle, majority of the council would change?
At least two of them will still be there. You know,
2 out of 6.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Love, if I may.
Oh,
make
one
it-
more question. Sorry, from Commissioner Peter.
Okay.
Or no?
No, I just want to comment,
Yeah, Commissioner.
point out that I hope that he appreciates that, yes, you did. I'll support what you said, that you did bring up your concerns about that area and you did map it differently. I mapped it differently. I know others did as well. And so I think he's reading too much into the maps that did happen to go down 15th Street. I, for one, have no idea where any of the current, oh no, I know one councilwoman where she lives, and the other ones, I have no idea where they live, or the mayor for that matter. So to suggest that we were focusing on going down 15th Street, I think is disingenuous. On the other hand, I appreciate that he's really looking for that kind of activity, and but I think he should go back and tell his neighbors that no, that's not how we did it.
3 of the city councilmen live west of, let's say, Harrison Boulevard, and 3 of them live west, and 2 of them live east of there, within a half a mile of each other. So they're all, yes, they are all very, very concentrated.
I
right there.
did not know where they lived.
Thank
when
you.
I drew my maps.
All right, next is Chris Ellis.
Hi, my name is Chris Ellis. I live at 11220 West Daniel Court in Boise. I grew up in Caldwell, but I've lived in that home for the last 19 years. I don't envy your job of redistricting, but I think it's important that a city council member actually know the area that they are representing. And the current map, or what I understand is the current map, would have the area around HP, where previous HP campus where we live, potentially represented by somebody who lives south of the freeway, which is a huge geographical as well as a lot of differences. And an experience we had in our neighborhood a few years ago, the city, I'm sure none of you, but somebody at the city decided it would be a great idea to not take care of our neighborhood park, not to mow it, not to water it, but to just let it turn back to nature. And unfortunately, the people that made that decision obviously didn't know who used the park, didn't know they had soccer practice at the park, didn't know that the daycare would bring children down almost every day during the summer to play at the park, didn't know that the senior center that is across 5 Mile, which ironically isn't even in this map, would bring people to walk through the park, see the ducks, enjoy the green space. So after several months of the park totally deteriorating, turning to weeds, dirt, many calls from the neighborhood, that decision was rescinded. And the city then had to spend money to redo the park, to put in the sod, get the sprinklers back up and running, and maintain it again. It was a very costly, frustrating endeavor that really didn't need to happen. And my concern is when we have a city council member who geographically doesn't know anything about where we live and the recreational areas we have and the parks we enjoy, those poor decisions will be made again. So for those reasons, I support a neighborhood map that goes at least from Eagle or just across Eagle, at least to Maple Grove, that would also include the Hyatt Lakes Hidden Reserve, which is a nature reserve. I run down there twice a week and I see people from our neighborhood. And again, having somebody, my guess is if you live south of the freeway, you don't even know it exists, let alone be able to make decisions about those recreational areas. So thank you.
I have a question actually.
Yeah.
So what would you say about the people, because if you look at this map in District well, on here it's District 3, but I believe that would have been District 6. The ones who live all the way almost to Eagle and being represented potentially by someone who lives in the west end of downtown.
So I don't live in that area.
Well, I'm
can't
just
really
saying, like,
speak
do you
to
think that
area.
that's the same type of situation? And do you think that
Probably.
But why would it be any different then, I guess?
I can only speak to where I live in my little neighborhood. I can't really speak to, I mean, I'm not familiar with those neighborhoods. I think that's the challenge you have.
Well, and I guess
obviously.
what I'm saying is, like, with our geographic challenges that we're dealing with, I guess some sacrifices need to be made, and that's what we're trying to figure out here. And so I'm just wondering if that would be comparable.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak to the difference. I mean, it's not obviously near as far north and south as it is on the District 1 map, which goes from like Amity all the way down to Shindon, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 7 miles. And it's not near, so geographically it's not as far, but I can't really speak to the diversity of those neighborhoods.
Thank you. Next would be Jamie Hegstrom.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Hegstrom. I live at 12152 West Lewisburg Court in Boise, 83709. I'm here representing our HOA, which is the Claymore Estates HOA. We are south of the overpass on Cloverdale Road, and I think, unfortunately, the current map splits my community and my neighborhood. It also combines communities that are miles apart instead of using these natural geographic boundaries. I want to add my support to those comments of Mr. King and Mr. Tudlow and Commissioner Peter, even that the Western Boise Neighborhoods United map, I think, plays to those natural boundaries a lot better in partnership with Commission Map 11. But dividing existing areas and communities of interest instead of uniting them is a concern of mine. I think you divided neighborhoods of West Valley, West Boise, Southwest Ada County Alliance, and South Cole. I know that the South Cole Neighborhood Association has already spoken, and I have similar concerns. I encourage you to unite the neighborhoods and communities of interests instead of dividing them. I think that we have in South Boise, south of the freeway, especially a conservative community. We have several schools, several city parks. That has been a tremendous area of growth in the South, a lot of parade homes. It's becoming an attractive place to live. And I think that combining those views with some of these more natural boundaries play to those conservative neighborhoods that we have that kind of make that South area very special. There's another map for consideration that keeps the population of districts more balanced. It keeps neighborhoods and communities of interest together, like I mentioned, and will stand the test of time through the precinct map revisions because there'll be that 2-year guideline. So this map of city council districts makes sense because it maintains those communities. Like I said, I urge you to consider the alternative and to make some adjustments in the western part of the city where I live. We've been there since 2009. We have, I'm also an alternate to my district representative of our area. I know I'm on the West Ada School District Superintendent Advisory Committee. We've got a very big West Ada school district. I know it services a large area, but I know inside my smaller community of home that those views are very important to me, that I live amongst neighbors that view the world the same way. So I just appreciate your consideration and all the effort that's been made so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Next, we have Wendy Dahl. But I do just want to make clear that homeowners associations do only just get 3 minutes. Neighborhood associations get 10, just for clarification purposes. So Wendy?
Just to clarify, associations, it is an association.
Neighborhood associations get 10 minutes. HOAs get, that HOAs and neighborhood associations aren't the same thing.
Oh, okay.
So HOAs will just get 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, my name is Wendy Daly. I live at 11949 West Armia in Boise in 83709.
I have been on the board of the HOA for the Crawford Place and Pepper Hills, which all is in the southwest part of Boise. I'm very alarmed at the division of how it will split my community and my neighborhood. As far as churches and parks and schools, my child went to Mountain View High School, and so that area is very important to me. I think when we look at districts versus precincts, they're totally different. Precincts can be divided multiple times over multiple years, where districts, of course, will stay in place for about 10 years. And so I think it really minimalizes, our Southwest Boise Alliance. I'm also in precinct 17, and you have split my precinct. And so it isn't equal. The people that I associate with and the people that I work with, as far as what we look at it in Southwest Boise, is being split up. You've taken that alliance and split it right down the middle. I live in the south part over the freeway on Overland and Cloverdale, and now you've associated with me people down into Carden City and Eagle, which has a totally different feel and different community. And so you have totally split it. You split my district into 3 different areas. And so as a district or a council in the city of Boise, it seems like I will have no vote or no interest, because there will be 3 different people that will be so spread out that there won't be any interest. I think as far as a map that you've looked, and you fairly have done some areas, but I really hope that you can reconsider the Southwest Boise area and look at this new map that has been presented by the Western Boise Neighborhood United Association. And just one thing, I was looking back at the previous, because they did hire an outside consultant to look at the divisions prior to this redistricting. And one of the things that they specifically say, and this was done by Peter A. Morrison, a PhD, a consulting firm who looked at that. If you go back and you look at that, it will say that the plan, even looking at as far as into 2023, would require modest recalibration. And based on how development and growth goes into those communities. And if you look at the communities south of the freeway, you will see that there will be growth, because that's where the land is. And so those communities will grow. And if you align them with the northern end of the freeway, with those where they will have very little growth, it just will not be equal, and it won't be representative. It will be unequivocally illogical to keep those boundaries split up in 3 different areas. And one of the things they specifically said in redistricting criteria is respecting established neighborhood communities of interest within the city. And you have not done that. You may have done it on the other ends, but when you look at the Southwest Boise, you need to consider the interest and the geographical impact that you will have on those areas.
That's time.
I do appreciate it. Do you have the copy of this map?
Yes, but that's time. So thank you for your comments. We really do appreciate them.
Please reconsider redistricting the Southwest Boise. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. Next, we have Steve Madden.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and the Commission for the work you're doing. My name is Steve Madden. I live at 1120 East Lewis Street, 83712 in Boise. That's the historic East End. I'm not a member of a neighborhood association. I looked into getting involved with my neighborhood association because I'm a conservative Republican. It wasn't really my cup of tea with that group. So I'm a standalone in my neighborhood. I'm a member in good standing of the Ada County GOP Central Committee, and I'm the precinct committeeman for 1923 where I live. So my interest is more about the political makeup and the representation on the city council than it is about preserving neighborhoods and neighborhood associations. I ran for city council seat 5 last year. I spent a lot of time canvassing all over District 5, talking with probably 7 or 8 different neighborhood associations. Listening to their needs, their complaints, their concerns. So I'm sympathetic to that concept of neighborhoods and people that want to preserve what they live in and the flavor of where they live and their neighborhoods. I'm also concerned that the concept of representative government, I don't want that to be overlooked in this process. The last redistricting map that we used for the city council elections last year was honestly an embarrassment. It made sure that all 5 of the city council incumbents were on the ballot as incumbents. None of them had to run against each other. There was an opportunity then to divide the city up a little more fairly by population density, by neighborhoods, but it was ignored. What I want to do is I want to emphasize the importance of providing equal representation on the city council, making sure that everyone that lives in the city of Boise has a voice, has someone they can call, someone they can talk to who will care and will listen and not bring an opposite agenda to the work they do up here on the dais. I've been watching city politics for 2 or 3 years, and it's very biased. It has an agenda. A lot of people don't agree with it. That's why I decided to run for city council. I wanted to bring some of those things to light. And I just want to make sure that the 6 people that sit up here represent a very balanced view of the city. And that I think it's brilliant that they actually have to live in the district that they represent. I don't know why it took so long to come to that conclusion, but it's a really brilliant idea. I would like to be able to talk to my city council person. I can, but there's a lot of people before the last election who didn't have a sympathetic voice or an ear that was tuned to their concerns. And I want to make sure that the idea of representative government is really embraced in this process, and that you draw a map that represents an equal distribution by population, not by voter registration, not by voting records, not by ideology or politics, but actually represents people.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We definitely appreciate that and take that to heart, I think, up here. I think every single one of us is pretty civic minded in the sense that we believe in, one person, one vote, equal representation across the board. So I guess my question for you is, are you in favor of the map that we have put forth then, or are you against it? Because you never quite addressed that.
I will say it's a better map than we had last year to run to the city council election.
Okay.
It's a much better map. I still think there's something that can be done.
Okay.
I would like to, honestly, I'd like to see where the addresses of the incumbent city council members are in relation to this map right now. And see if they are actually living in a different council, or if they're all, still, if they're actually encumbered by having to be clustered into one space like they are now, or they were previously, or if they're actually going to have to campaign and run against somebody.
We don't have that information, unfortunately, but
I could probably do that homework myself. But I would like to say that I value your work. I really appreciate it. It's a really difficult job. You're going to make a lot of people angry. You're going to make a lot of people happy. And I'm hoping that when the dust all settles, that we have a map that's actually going to produce a city council that represents everyone and will listen to everyone, and that we can have a more balanced government in the city.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next is Ashley Prince.
Okay, perfect. Hi, hello, my name is Ashley Prince. I live at 1424 South Loveland Street, and I was here just 2 weeks ago. So I came back, so as part of the original testimony process, I had an opportunity to look at all of the maps that were presented then. And at the time, map 8 had really stood out to me. I live off of the Latah Bench, but I am a renter and I have actually lived in a lot of different places in the last 12 years. And then just finally kind of found my home there. And in that support, I think particularly like the compactness of the districts, the really clear boundaries stood out to me. One of the things that I was kind of worried about were the precinct splits on Boise Avenue. So when I watched the commissioner meeting last week, I think it was last week, and I saw that there was an improved map that actually removed that, it just felt like you guys heard that. So I just wanted to come up here and thank you all for your work. This process seems just really responsive to the public. I love seeing so many people here tonight as well. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Michael Lostra.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Cool. My name's Michael Lostra. I'm at 1161 Kingfisher Way, in Boise, 83709. First of all, I want to apologize. I did submit the map. It's the Western Boise Neighborhoods United, and it's in combination with your 11, and I have extra copies.
We do have it here in our notes, but it is the second page.
I'm sorry. I've never done this before, so bear with me. So like I said, I'm in the south. Well, I'm in the southwest Boise neighborhood. I've lived in Boise. I grew up here. I went to school at West Junior High before they knocked it down. I went to school at Amity Elementary before they knocked it down. I can cry about both of those. Set it aside. I'm back in the southwest Boise again. It's home to us, and what I'm going to say is this has got to be the most thankless damn job in the universe. No matter what you guys do, nobody's going to like it. They're all going to hate you. You're gonna make half of everybody mad. I don't envy you, but you guys did really. Looking at it, we think you did good to a point. But in the southwest Boise area, you've broken us up into 3 different areas. We think this map more accurately fixes that. It unites our neighborhood, and it doesn't separate southwest Boise and combine it with northwest Boise, which makes 0 sense. It keeps southwest Boise and southwest Boise. It keeps northwest Boise and northwest Boise. It really, I can't speak highly enough on that. For too long, we've been really sort of ignored because of the way the districts have been drawn. There's a person that's representing us that can't because they don't know us, is essentially my gripe. Sorry, I'm all over the map, but a little nervous. With this map, what it does, like I said, in our opinion, it's just a small tweak, but it keeps the districts, it keeps the neighborhoods more cohesive. And it still keeps the populations and the other rules, because I know you guys have a whole lot of competing, like this rule competes with that rule, and how do you square all those circles? We think this does a better job of doing it. And again, I apologize for taking until last night to get it submitted, but here it is. In close, again, I do want to thank you guys. You're all, it's a thankless job. I really urge you to consider the Western Boise Neighborhoods United and the Commission 11 map. Thank you.
Any questions?
I have a question. What software or how did you build the map? What did you use to build the map?
We used your software.
Mapitude.
It was part of a committee.
Okay. And then the other question is, do you know how many precinct splits you had?
On the current map?
On the map you submitted.
The one we submitted
Yeah.
versus yours. I should know that, and I don't off the top of my head. I apologize. It was built as part of a committee.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't the only person. We kind of got together and went, okay, well, this makes sense.
Okay.
So it didn't occur to me to look at that specific piece of information.
Madam Chair, can I just ask a question? Thank you so much. And I'm impressed by your population deviation in the map. And just so that the public maybe knows why precincts are such a critical piece, because that was the Ada County clerk came and complained about the current map because of how many precincts were split. And I think it's really important for the public to know that the reason why both the statute and the city council ordinance really ask for precinct splits to be at a minimum is because it's an election integrity question. You have 2 zones overlapping in one precinct, it can have an issue where people are not maybe getting the right ballot when they're going into vote. So I just hope that, you know, it's okay that you don't have it on here today. We could probably go look at it. And if you happen to find that information, that's important. But I think, you know, when we saw there was at least one map that split this way. And I think we had debated it. The downside was the amount of precinct splits that appeared. So I just wanted you to know that. Thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate you guys considering this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Abigail Sanford.
Hi there, my name is Abigail Sanford. I live at 2000 North Mountain Cove Road, Boise. I was here a couple weeks ago in support of map number 8, and I tuned into the meeting last week, and I just want to commend you all for doing such a good job at collaborating with the community and taking into account a lot of different perspectives and coming up with map number 11. I'm really impressed with this. And thank you to the community members that testified before and making sure that you all are aware of all of these different perspectives. As we mentioned before, there are a lot of unique parts of Boise and distinct and recognizable communities. Map number 11 maintains the integrity of those communities, and it observes legal guidelines with 0 precinct splits, which I think is just really incredible. Thank you. And I am just grateful that this map 11 is a culmination of the community and this commission working together to produce a map that is sound and fair. So thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next we will move on to Stephen Kaiser.
Thank you. I'm Stephen Kaiser. I live at 5871 North Applebrook Way, Boise 83713. Here representing myself. I have children and grandchildren that also live in West Boise at various locations, and I interact extensively. We all do with local churches and businesses, my local HOA, and my grandkids have gone to Eustic Elementary and Lowell Scott Middle School. I think I've heard some very compelling testimony to not be in support of map 11 and to look for alternatives, especially because of its impact in the West Boise area and Southwest Boise area as well. We see that the division kind of mingles those two distinct groups, and many people here are opposed to that excessive division and mingling. This current map 11, it splits my community and my neighborhood. In fact, it splits neighborhoods 11 times. And there's been discussion about the favoring of precinct lines over neighborhood boundaries. And I think you can find a much better balance to reduce the number of splitting of the neighborhood boundaries so drastically. At appearance, it does look like it's kind of created a sort of a weird gerrymandered lines for District 1 especially, but also District 2 and 6. You know, my family and I and my neighbors, we basically connect with other neighbors and businesses for the most part, from Eagle Road to Maple Grove, and from, well, even north of Shindon up into Eagle, but basically in Boise from Shindon down to Fairview. And we don't really interact in the same way. When you get south of the freeway, they don't interact as much with us. So the division is very distinct, and I think you have a better alternative available to you, and you can. I would urge you to consider making some more reasonable adjustments for West Boise to consider neighborhoods more thoroughly. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Next, we have Dave Kangas.
My name is Dave Kangas, and I reside at 1715 West Canal Street. We're almost there, getting a little heated. As mentioned earlier by David King, is Boise Working Together. I am not here representing them, but I am president of Boise Working Together, and we have on our board and friends that we regularly meet with have people from 8 different neighborhood associations, and we haven't been able to come to an agreement on a map. So today I'm here speaking for myself, that I really was taking into the conversation between Commissioner Peters and Commissioner Love on West Boise. That seemed to be a long, detailed conversation. And in thinking about it over the last week, I really think that West District 1 in map 11, covering the area Meridian, I don't want to use the word, but I have to, because it really feels a little bit gerrymandered along partisan lines. We're not supposed to have partisan politics, but all politics is partisan, no matter how you try to get away from it. The further west you go, the more conservative the population goes. So by doing that, you can say that making one district is going to be one type, is basically going to be a conservative district, and then it makes it easier for the other 2 districts to be other than that. And that would say, by my guess, would say that 5 of these 6 districts would go one way and you'd have 1 going conservative. And I really don't think that's the process or the map that we want going forward. And that comes out when I was looking at Commissioner Peters' map, that really seemed to break that up to a point where the voters would get to decide who is going to be representing them, which is the way it's supposed to be, versus lines drawn in the map. I do have a different opinion than a lot of people do here tonight on splitting a neighborhood association, because for me, it gives me access to 6 legislators and hopefully 2 different city council people when I have an issue. One may pick up the phone, the other one might not. You know, it's hard to say, but I like that attitude. Apparently others don't. I want to suggest and strongly urge, don't put yourself and the city council in the box by giving them one map to choose from. We don't want it rejected and come back and go through this process again. For me, I would suggest that you take a look at 2 maps. I think 3 might be too many. So I would strongly support Commissioner Peters' map 14. Maybe if Eric could clean it up a little bit so many precincts weren't split. But I think that would be a good map to move forward as well and let the council make that tough call. I believe it's the green district. I can't think of what number it was that has the negative population. That area, because of Micron and was currently under being built and under permitting stage right now, we're going to be redoing this in 6 years. There's so much growth in that area. We're going to have to redesign and redraw these maps unless the economy completely tanks. So I do not see it making it to 10 years because of that growth. So don't put yourself in the box. Put some pressure on the council to make the decision.
Thank you. Next, we have Cindy Thorngren.
Enough for everybody there. Anybody behind that wants to see what I've got to? Yeah. I'm Cindy Thorngren. I'm the Vice President of SWACA, Southwest Ada County Alliance. And I live at 10890 West Smoke Ranch Drive, Boise, Idaho 83709. First of all, I want to say that I do not blame you guys for the split on 15th Street. I blame Garden City. Okay, there's very little ways to do anything on that north end with that. I also do not blame you for West Boise and the splits that we're looking at there. I blame myself. I did not submit a map. And I don't think anybody who lived in West Boise submitted a map before today. No, we did not participate. So you did not gerrymander anything when you did not have participation. The map that I'm showing you is only looking at the 3 districts in West Boise. I grew up on Boise Avenue, got shipped bus to Boise High. I've lived on the bench, this bench, I've lived on the west bench. I now live in Southwest Boise. I'm only looking at the 3 districts, and give me a little bit more time because I'm Southwest Ada County Alliance here. Have I gotten my 10 minutes yet? Okay. I want to take a look at this map. Go ahead. Give me a little more time.
Are you speaking on behalf of
Yes.
the board? There you go.
Okay, sorry, because I didn't say that.
Yeah, we just wanted to clarify. So
I did not, because I was not able to get into, after not having submitted, I didn't get into and look at population things. So I just looked at how this is laid out and looking at it from how SWAC and the other neighborhood associations look at zoning and that type of thing. And I want to take a look at, to start with, the red area that I have, which is Southwest Boise. Southwest Boise is 1-acre lots, 5-acre lots, half-acre lots, a few subdivisions, almost no blocks. Okay. So when we're looking at things that might come up in a zoning application, we're looking at somebody selling an acre that gets filled in with 4 duplexes, or a 5-acre plot that gets, 100 apartments put on it. We got a 10-acre lot right now that's looking at 200 apartments to be put on it. It's a whole different thing. Then what I have in mind is the blue area, which is bench area. Bench area is very much like a north end in that a lot of the places have alleys and blocks. The infill that comes in there is where a house, a duplex might be sold, and you get 2 straight up narrow little blocks put in with the parking on the alley when nobody has ever parked on the alley in the bench. So you have those types of infill situations there. And then when I've moved into the West Boise, the green area, the West and the Cloverdale HP area, those have a lot of subdivisions that are a little bit younger than mine. They're only 30 years old instead of 50. And they're subdivisions, they're not, most of that is built out. There's very little that's coming up that's has a lot of that infill area specifically. So many of the subdivisions. I just want to take a look at this as having one of the reasons, another reason besides your neighborhood associations, to look at why those might be separated for the zoning reasons that would come up in those areas. Stand for questions.
Kathy,
Love,
I think,
may I
has a
speak?
question for you.
Oh, and I think I just muted here.
We can hear you.
We can hear you. Just
Okay, you don't care. Yes, I want to thank you for speaking. I just wanted to mention that, yes, I live in West Boise, and I submitted 2 maps as one of the comments. But I think that's an excellent point as far as the understanding what development means in different parts of the city, and that it is very different in the area where I live versus Southwest Boise. So yes, thank you for speaking and bringing that up. I think that's a very
I would like to, again, since I didn't submit, it would be nice to have where Boise City might grow and have those included as part of the overlay. Maybe it was. And it would be really nice to reopen the maps for some of us out there in West Boise. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Angie Redford. Oh, okay. Gwen Skidmore.
My name's Gwen Skidmore, and we live at 5392 North Capson Avenue in Boise, West Boise, 83704. We've been there for about 21 years and like our neighborhood a lot. Moving from Colorado 21 years ago, we noticed a big difference from our community in Colorado from Boise. Boise is very different geographically, and our neighborhood in the west has some real differences that I don't think are considered on map 11. So I'm speaking up in favor of the Western neighborhoods map. I like it better. My dad was a civil engineer. I'm sorry, I'm really nervous. My dad was
You're
a civil
fine.
engineer, and he worked on the city council in Boulder City, Nevada. And I know the importance of being comfortable with who represents you. And so as a neighborhood, I would like to know my representative. And the way it's split up on map 11, I don't think does a good job of doing that. I know you put a lot of work in, and there've been a lot of, revisions and decisions made, but I think there's a better way to do it. Neighborhoods and community are huge when you're talking about civic involvement and being able to participate in the process and having your voice heard. So I would encourage you to look at that Western map if you would, and think about it as a possibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kimberly Kaler.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Kaler. I live at 10813 West Sandpiper Street in Boise, 83709. I've been looking at the different maps, and to be honest, I haven't lived in Boise long enough to really get a sense of the points that people are raising. Other than if I just look at it in the current map, some of the proposed maps, and this proposed map, it does appear, and I live in Southwest Boise, that there's a lot of disruption on the west side. And I'm not saying it's intentional. It's just that in my precinct, and I think precincts are very fluid. I don't know if they're the best way to use it as a determinative factor, but the neighborhoods kind of geographically are concentric. If you think of circles, and people kind of move around in their neighborhoods within a X miles, right? Like the average person might do most of their business and their friends within like 5 miles. So now I'm getting looks like where I'll be. I was in 6 and now I'll be in 1, and I hardly ever go to like Chinden in that area. And I really don't actually engage with a lot of people in Meridian. I'm in Boise. So it just seems, and I know it's not intentional, but in that area, there's a lot of disruption to the neighborhoods. And so I kind of, I want to just reemphasize all the other points that folks have made about the neighborhood perspective, and just trying to relook at it and try to think of like the concentric circles and say, where can we be as, minimize the disruption? I know some people are going to, be disrupted, but I think there could be a compromise, because some of these seem really dramatically different than the current parameters that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we have Rebecca Arnold.
Not sure I like being last. Hopefully somebody else will come up. My name is Rebecca Arnold. I live at 11751 West Thomas Drive in Boise, and that is in West Boise. Thank you for your service and for taking the time to do this. As an ACHD commissioner for 16 years, I've been in your shoes. Redistricting more than once, it's not easy, it's not fun, and it's very stressful. So I would encourage you to take a breath, give yourselves a break, and take a little more time to look at this. I know there's been a map that's been submitted yesterday, and maybe some people would consider that a little late in the process. But I have to tell you, there were a number of times serving on the commission when we had public hearings, we had a lot of information from the outside, from staff, and we'd be at our final public hearing, and someone would walk in and present issues and facts that simply had not been considered. And that would remind me of the importance of being open to take a pause and try to make the best decision, even if it meant taking a little extra time to do it. So I would encourage you to take a serious look at this new map. I'm calling it a compromise map because that appears to be that's what it is. It leaves one section alone and it changes West Boise. I know precincts are important and it makes the clerk's job easier if you don't split precincts, but communities matter and communities and neighborhood associations don't change. So I think you have to really consider giving those priority, even if it does mean a few precinct splits here and there. Most of the neighborhood associations were set up many years ago before politics became so divisive, and I think they're a good gauge of where we need to be and where we need to make these splits. Natural boundaries, the river, the interstate, those all impact communities. So I would just encourage you to take a little extra time, maybe present 2 maps as someone suggested to the council for consideration, but please do take into consideration this. I think it's the West Boise. It's the compromise map. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? All right.
Chair Love, we have someone on.
Okay, we have one more on Zoom.
Shiva Rajmandari.
Hey, can you hear me?
Kind of.
Okay, I'll try to project. My name's Shiva. I'm a senior at Boise High. I love Boise. I love this community. And I am a big proponent of map 11. I think it's a huge improvement over map 8. Thanks for taking the time to look at all these different maps. I would argue that precincts, are set by the statewide commission. They're designed not to split neighborhoods and to keep communities together. And I want to vote with my precinct on city council. I think it keeps it easiest for voters to understand kind of where they're voting and who they're voting for. Whereas, I don't even know where my neighborhood association boundary is. So yeah, I support map 11. Thanks for all your hard work on this. Thanks for considering this. And thanks to all the community members who have given testimony.
Thank you, Shiva. One question. What is your address? We did not get that at the beginning.
My address is 721 Hearthstone Drive, 83702.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. And that should conclude the open testimony. So we will now close the public hearing. Are there any questions from the commissioners?
I have a question. There's been several references to precincts that I think were incorrect. I think people were thinking about the districts, the legislative districts, and referring to them, calling it precincts. Precincts change. The districts change once every 10 years, but the precincts can change in between there as the population changes.
That's not totally correct, Kathy.
Well, how did they change them in District 15 a few years ago? What happened
So,
then?
I'm going to clarify this. So
Yeah,
what
that'd be
you can
great.
do with precincts change every 10 years along with the census. They update those when they do redistricting for legislative maps and all of that. What they can do on top, like in between those years, is split precincts. So it wouldn't actually be changing any boundaries. It would literally be splitting one into two. And therefore you wouldn't actually have any issues about precincts not aligning with the city council map for the full 10 years, just for clarification's sake.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I don't have a question. I just have a comment.
Go ahead.
Okay. So thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who's here today. I think, I guess I'm sad, that we didn't get a copy of the map that folks came here tonight and kind of united for. I think, we went above and beyond it. It was the direction of the commission to go above and beyond to ensure that neighborhoods were vastly aware of what the commission was trying to accomplish. We really wanted public participation when it came to this process. Council wanted public participation when it comes to this process, but we're also tasked with maintaining the integrity of the law. So we have statutory requirements, we have precinct requirements that we're required to follow. So, I've said this before, it is a difficult task to keep all of what people wish and believe and their own personal identities, what they think their neighborhoods and what they think Boise should look like. I think, in a city of 250,000+ people, there's probably a different view from every single person. So it's impossible to really find a map that meets the needs of individual people. However, what is possible is finding the most legally viable map that we can submit to City Council. So I want the folks here tonight, if you weren't able to, I encourage you to go listen to the previous public testimony that the commission has taken previously. Both in written testimony and at a previous hearing, we got overwhelming support for one specific map. Tonight, many of you have come in support of another specific map. And unfortunately, I don't have the data I need in front of me to determine if this is a legally viable and suitable map that this commission can submit to City Council. So I just want to thank everyone for coming. I wish that we could have seen this sooner. And, Mr. Lostra, I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly, but if you know those precinct splits, please email the commission. We do get every single email, and I know many of us are volunteers, but we read every single email that comes into this commission because we know this public participation is critical. So yeah, I probably had more to add, but now I'm just rambling. So thank you so much for everyone coming tonight, and I'll conclude there. Thank you.
I want to second what Commissioner Perry or Vice Chair Perry is saying. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your input.
As soon as I have that information, I will email it to you. I should have it to you tonight.
Okay, thank you. No, we appreciate that. And we will take your feedback into consideration. We do have the ability to look at the maps and to see if any more changes need to be made. Maybe there's a way to, if there are precinct splits, maybe there's a way to make map this Southwest map viable. That's quite possible. It's something we'll have to look at, and we'll take all of your feedback into consideration under that. But we do have to choose something that is legally viable. So hopefully we
May I ask a
can some
question?
type of compromise, but we'll see.
May I ask a question, Chair? It's not
Thank
clear
you.
to me-
That's
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
Kathy.
Yeah, thank you.
Peter.
I just not clear to me. So the map that was presented, that we received an email and you have paper copies there of it, is that available to us online? And has it been checked for precinct?
I
divisions?
don't believe so because it was just submitted, I think, last night or early this morning. So
Is it going to be available?
We'll have to check with Eric, and we can look into that, Kathy.
Okay.
Or Commissioner Peter.
Because I assume that yes, we would like to look at it.
Question for Mr. Lostra. Did you make the map shareable to everyone?
I believe you guys should have access to it. I'll double check.
Okay. If you would just make sure you select the share all option, that would help us out with that. And that should clear that up. Will that take care of that for you, Kathy or Commissioner?
Yes, I thought he had said that it was made in Maptitude, but I wasn't sure about that. So apparently it was, and it is shareable. So that would be helpful.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Madam
this meeting?
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? No opposed. This meeting is adjourned.